Well, Matthew, aka Hungry Hussey, thank you for being on the show today. I want to start with a very easy question as we kick off here. How does someone grow a YouTube channel that is primarily about griddling to 232,000, 100,000 subscribers as of this recording? How do you do that?
Well, number one, thank you for having me on, Dylan. I really appreciate it. Really enjoy talking about this journey, I might say.
Yeah.
Um, it's been a crazy journey. So 200 and yeah, I don't 232, is that what it is? I don't even know
That's right.
myself. Um, if you could have asked me, 6 years ago, whenever I started, would you expect to be at this point? No, no, I wouldn't. I've learned some stuff over this time and learned a lot. Main thing is a lot of people get caught up in their head. They think they need to have this beautiful, overly produced content, just like Mr. Beast or whoever. The main thing is you need to hit the record button and you need to get started. That's ultimately what you have to do.
Yeah.
Get started. You may or may not like it, and that's exactly what I did. When I got started, I started very cheap. Didn't have much in it at all. But getting started is the major thing. Getting out of your head, and most of all, consistency,
Yeah.
and start cultivating that community. And you start engaging with people. Eventually, you're going to get found. You're going to find your community. But most of all is hitting the record. If you never hit the record button, you're never going to get your community going.
Mm.
And I tell people all the time, your first 10 videos are going to suck. Your next, your last 10 that you shot is going to be way better than your first 10.
Mm.
And it's just one of those things it's just with anything, riding a bike, your
Yeah.
first time riding a bike's not as good as your last time riding a bike. Um, so I would say getting started, don't get caught up in equipment. A lot of people will. They're like, oh, I don't have a good enough camera for that. I don't
Right.
have this. I don't have that. And man, there for a while, I bought a used camera. It was a decent camera. It wasn't really all that great. And I shot with that thing for a long, long time. That and phone. Did phone first, phone and just some photography. It did video as well. Not it
Yeah.
didn't it didn't focus very well, but did some manual focusing. But yeah, I just got started enjoying it, and got a rhythm going, and a weekly rhythm, and here we are.
Yeah. So when you started this out, I mean, 6 years, obviously consistent. Griddling is, I feel like, somewhat of a niche area.
Yeah.
What when you said, "Hey, I'm going to give this like a few months"? Did you have a plan when you first started doing videos? You're like, "I'm just going to do videos as I can do them." How did you start?
Um, I didn't really have a plan. I just kind of I knew once I started getting into it, I started seeing and looking at, like, how should I do this at that time. This was 2016. It was still kind of, you need at least one a month, or not one a week. I'm sorry, not month,
Yeah.
but and try to do that consistently. And a lot has changed since then. There's a lot of talk around mental health, that kind of thing, about creators, the burnout, the stress, and all that kind of stuff. And they say now that it's not really needed to post every week to be relevant. And sometimes that's true. If you look at like a Mark Rober channel, where he's an engineer from NASA, and he's not any longer, and I think he posts a video a month that gets millions and millions of views, but highly produced, big pockets as well to produce those.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I didn't really have a plan. I didn't know a lot about YouTube when I first started. I actually started out, I was doing a lot of Instagram pictures, Twitter
Mm.
pictures, and that was on my Big Green Egg, actually. And I
Huh.
was doing a lot of photos only and posting. That's how the marketing agency that works for Blackstone saw what I was doing, and they reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you, be interested in doing a partnership and affiliate uh, with us, Blackstone, or we're a partner with Blackstone, And, you get a link. Anybody that, buys something from your link, you get a cut from that. I was like, oh, how cool. That was before anything really got big as far as affiliate marketing, that kind of thing. So, and they were like, oh, by the way, check out this guy. He works for Blackstone, just like we're asking you to. His name's Todd Tovin. And he does pretty well on YouTube. And I was like, oh, let me check out YouTube. Let me see what this is about. And I saw his videos and I thought, I got this camera that I take pictures with. I can do this. This is easy. Not so much. YouTube is not easy. A lot of people think it's easy, but it is not easy. But consequently, I got into it. I liked it. I loved interacting with people. I got in with some people about at the same time. We were kind of in a little group, and we just had a lot of fun with that. So, it just kind of snowballed, man. And so there was still absolutely no plan. I was just throwing spaghetti on the wall to see, and I was just having fun. That was just mainly what I was doing. And next thing you know, videos have started popping off. I say popping off. I mean, I wasn't like Mr. Beast level, but I mean, we were getting some good traction. And I had one video, just really, I think it hit 1 million views pretty quickly.
What was it?
And it was the most easiest thing I've ever fixed in my life. It was sausage and eggs, and it was a dish that my mama would always cook. If she needed to get breakfast on the table, you basically just fry up some sausage and pour eggs over it. And if you want cheese, growing up, we didn't have a whole lot of money, so sometimes we had cheese and sometimes we didn't have cheese. And so, and my wife actually talked me into doing that video because I didn't have a video ready and I was stressed out. I get stressed out when I don't have anything. And she said, why don't you just do your sausage and eggs? And I was like, God, that's too simple. It's too simple. And what happens is the thing took off, and it was really weird. It would take off and then it would just die. And then all of a sudden it would take off again. It was like, it went through 3 or 4 of those iterations. Right now it's dead again, but I think it's maybe 1.4, 1.6 million, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I'm always curious, whether someone cooks or not, everybody has seen cooking videos online. I mean, they're just like fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
How much prep goes into filming one of your videos? I mean, you've been doing it a while, so you have multiple camera angles, and I'm assuming there might be some lights or some mics somewhere. Like, what goes into a single video?
My setup has grown significantly, and if I had a picture, I'd show it to you. I have one somewhere, but maybe I'll show it. So I have like 3 lights. I got some. You can see if you look in one of these windows in one of my videos, you can see the reflection of what I call it. They're called balloon lanterns, basically, and it has a nice light inside of there. But the lantern helps diffuse the light, make it real buttery, make it kind of, I don't know if you want to say cinematic or whatever, but it just really diffuses the light, makes it really, really nice. If you just don't have any filter on there at all, it's really harsh and it just don't look good at all. And preparation. There's a lot of prep. So right now, as I'm talking right now, I'm prepping. Tomorrow is our shoot day. I shoot on Fridays. It's a little bit more because I like to shoot at least 4, if not up to 6 videos at a time. And that helps tremendously, especially for allowing for, personal things come up. My kids are in sports, there's all kinds of things. I might get sick, and that way I kind of build that catalog up, and I don't have to, I'm not a slave to the system. In other words, when you go week to week, it's so tough. I don't have the stress like I used to, like, oh, I got to get out here. Either I'm not feeling it or whatever, but yeah, we'll try and really hit it, for weeks on end, doing at least 4 a week for each channel. I do my channel, plus also I'm on the Blackstone channel as well. So So like this week is Blackstone. So last week it was my channel that we tried to shoot. We actually did 6 videos last week.
So, but you release one a week, just
On
also
my
regular.
channel, I do one for sure a week. And that's on Saturdays. I have been trying to do 2 a week as well. I'll try to do something a little bit smaller, something maybe I code name it 3-minute Thursdays. It's not always 3 minutes, and I never is it 2-minute 2-minute Thursday 3. I can't even remember what I say, but at any rate, I never hit the mark. But that's kind of the lure about it. It's like he's never going to make it. I don't even know why he calls it that. So a lot of people's like, you should call it this, you should call it that. But it's like one day I might hit it, but we'll see.
Yeah. So you're doing, but you're doing at least one for you and at least one for Blackstone every week.
Yep. Yeah, I got to do one video a week for Blackstone, one video for me, and then a bonus. What I tell my fans is you might get one on Thursdays, and this week you will.
Nice.
So preparation still, grocery shopping is one thing. I do online grocery shopping pretty much exclusively because it saves me a ton of time.
I mean, how in the world do you prep for 6 cooks in one day?
I take a lot of, I have a note, I use a Mac, and then I use notes a lot. And then, basically I'll have my cooks laid out. Even if I do 4, I have 5 or 6 planned just in case. There's always something happening. Either somebody's coming by to cut the yard, or the neighbors are doing something in their yard, or, sometimes I might only get 3, but I always try to plan at least for more than what I want. But yeah, I bought a huge refrigerator for the garage. It looks like my brother code names at the convenience store, because it's like a convenience store, big double doors. And the cool thing is that when I get my groceries in, I got my note laid out. Well, this is what I want to do. Here's the ingredients of what I need, and I go online. I do online groceries either through Walmart or through Harris Teeter or Food Line. And then sometimes I get some stuff locally, like meats and things like that. And so I just go through, get my grocery list together, submit it. That way they deliver it to me. That's time that that I save. That's time I could be doing something else. So it costs a little bit more, but the convenience outweighs it. So, I can recoup that, in other words.
Yeah.
And so day of shooting, Friday morning, I got a couple bus pans that I'll throw all the groceries in. I'll bring downstairs here to the basement. This is where I shoot. It's kind of like my area. And I'll have these trays laid out. They're Blackstone trays or whatever kind of trays. And I'll have all the ingredients on each one. Some stuff isn't on there if it needs to be refrigerated really well. So like meats and things like that, I'll just leave those in the refrigerator that I have downstairs, and then pull them out whenever I need them. And then basically, I get things cleaned up. I got to get things cleaned up, all the time. It's outside. So leaf blow the place. I got to wipe everything down. So I do that first thing in the morning. Make sure your camera batteries are charged, make sure mic batteries are charged. And then, lights, my lights stay up all the time. That's been a huge help.
Yeah.
I have these, I think they're called magic arms, and they're attached to my deck. And then the cool thing is they can kind of articulate them and move them wherever I kind of need them, and they're out of the way. So what's cool is they're just hanging from the top. I don't have any stands. I used to have C stands, and man, my set was just getting junky and then we would trip. And so getting them off of stands and into the roof, man, it's made all the difference in the world. So 3 lights. I have 1 main camera, and then I have a shoot. I got a guy who films now. So he basically sets up the cameras for me, make sure the mics are working. And then he's kind of bouncing left and right, kind of around and doing the B-roll stuff. Used to, it would just be, I'd have a second camera or sometimes a third camera. So I know that was a lot, but yeah, you just, I come, I grab a tray, when we're ready, get all the ingredients. I go outside, and as soon as we'll shoot the video, start it and end it, and then I try it. I don't sit there very long. I mean, it's literally a bite, and once we get our thumbnail pictures, the extra B-roll, like extra beauty shots, things like that, I pack everything back onto that tray, send it back in, come out with another one, and then we do it all over again.
Yeah.
So
at this point, are you still editing all the videos? Okay.
the guy that shoots for me, he edits for me. I haven't edited. That was another thing that I was very inefficient at. I would do okay, but what's helped is that's helped me gain some sleep. I would have to edit at night.
Yeah.
Sometimes I was feeling it, sometimes I wasn't. When I sub that out, that's helped me tremendously with a lot of time that I can kind of go towards other things.
Yeah. And I'm assuming make more videos.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Make way more videos. Yeah.
How long into the process until you handed that off?
I was a little over. I was over 100,000 subscribers whenever I started that. Maybe like one. It wasn't. It's been. We'll be in this house maybe 4 years. I think I got somebody then.
Okay.
So it's almost 4 years now.
Yeah. What is the hardest part about doing this consistently?
The hardest part is sometimes motivation. You're a lot of people don't know that it's a challenge sometimes.
Yeah.
Just sometimes you just don't want to do it. You're working a 9 to 5. There's work. But then there's also people depending on you. The guy that helps me shoot, he's a contract employee for me, right?
Yeah.
So there's things like that just kind of starts weighing you down. The ideas aren't so bad. Sometimes you do get into a rut. It's like, I just don't know what to make. YouTube is just a machine, and it kind of, you're kind of, you want to make that viral video, you want to do this. And then sometimes you just got to take a step back and say, well, why did I get into this? And just get back to what you want to do and get back to your roots. Right. So, I would just say sometimes it's just motivation. You're constantly, you just always feel like you're doing something when you're a creator. You have Instagram, you got Facebook, you got orders coming in for seasonings, and it's just sometimes you just kind of you're mentally drained, and you just, you just don't want to do some things sometimes, but you got to put your big boy pants on and get at it.
So how do you keep up? I mean, 2016's 8 years in. How do you move past that, and do you still enjoy it?
I do still enjoy it. It's sometimes the prep is I'll go back to that. It's just like, man, I don't feel like wiping these things down again. But once we start and the lights come on, there's something about it that I enjoy. Now, when I'm about on the 5th or 6th recipe of the day, and it's 100 degrees outside with the humidity that we have, and when you got a griddle on, and we're up under our main deck, we're on a walkout basement, and you got a griddle on. Sometimes we got the griddle on, and sometimes I got something in the pellet grill too. That's a video that I'm working in as well. It gets hot up under there, and you just kind of get drained just from the heat and all that. But you just kind of realize people depend on you. People want your video, and whenever you get the messages or letters and things like that, people that you got them through some pretty cool, some bad places in their lives. It's pretty cool to. It's a pretty cool thing for your heart. It does your heart good, and then you feel like that you owe them, that video. So the people is kind of what gets you through. But most of all, it's just like a job. You just got to keep kind of going to it, and
Yeah.
but fun. Yeah, it's fun. Some of the clerical stuff, I could do without.
Right.
It's a lot to to handle YouTube comments, your Facebook
Mhm.
comments, your Instagram comments, your TikTok comments, and uh, emails, and there's just too much, just too
Yeah.
much.
That's interesting. Now, one of the unique things about the content you create is, like you just mentioned, you're outside, and you're
Yeah,
doing this pretty much all year. So
yeah,
you're in like middle of July, North Carolina gets hot. January, February. I'm assuming you're just putting on layers and keep going after
yeah.
it.
Well, that's the good thing. Cold don't bother me as much. Now, Jacob, on the other hand, the guy that films, he has some kind of heated jacket that he puts on and all this. He's extra sometimes.
Yeah.
And we joke about that, and he knows he's extra. But
Yeah.
for me, I'll get a long sleeve. I don't do any layers really, except for another. I always wear a white shirt. But I might put on a long sleeve, and that's about it. The
Mm.
the griddle, we'll just keep it on, and it keeps it kind of okay, up
Yeah.
under there.
Sure.
So we don't really do anything special. We don't put a heater out there since we already have the griddle on.
Yeah. Now, 2016 you started, and now you're doing at least 2 videos a week.
Yeah.
Who tell before I get on, I got a Blackstone like 3 years ago, and I use it like 4 or 5 times a week. But I'm like, man, I don't know what else to make. And
Yeah.
you're making most of it. How in the world do you not run out of ideas, or do you somewhat recycle? How do you come up with what you're going to make?
I'll recycle some, and I might put a twist on something, or let's say my fried rice recipe from back 2016 is not the same as now. There's certain things you pick up on. There's another little tip. It's like, oh yeah. So like back in 2016, I used to be very, very stern on I do not need a rice cooker. I don't need a rice cooker. Now I've started using a rice cooker, and I like it. I used to talk trash about the rice cooker. And people would always say, "Oh, you got to get a rice cooker. Got to get a rice." I was like, "Nope, not going to do it." Back in the day, and even like a year ago, 2 years ago, bought a rice cooker. I love the thing,
Nice.
and it makes it real nice, real nice to do. But as far as ideas, the main thing, you know, I'm not cook. I'm trying to appeal to anybody and everybody.
Right.
Not so much trying to cook something for dinner for my family.
Mm.
My family's kind of square, to be honest with you. They don't eat. They're not branching out much,
Yeah.
and so that's tough. But for the folks, there's always something going on. There's grilling season. So hamburgers, hot dogs. That kind of thing. What kind of sides? You know, um, holidays are always coming up. There's always some kind of these other made up holidays like, whatever, Cracker Jack Day and,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But, so there's always something, and I have a list going on my note app, right?
Mm.
I have another one that's just basically ideation stuff. And, there's also, there's a book that I read. It's called A Technique for Producing Ideas
Mm.
by James Webb Young, and basically in a nutshell, it is whenever you sit down and you're trying to think of something, you're not going, especially when you get that block. What you got to do is the technique basically, or the main technique is while you're on a walk, while you're watching TV. On Food Network, I watch a lot of Food Network. I'll see something. I'm like, what, I might could do that, but with a twist.
Mm.
I don't watch a lot of cooking YouTube videos, like somebody might think.
Yeah.
So, um, suggestions from fans. I get a lot of suggestions. Sometimes I will ask, them, and try to get some like popular stuff, what might be on their mind. Did that not long ago. Chicken wings kind of rang true, especially with football season
Yeah.
on us right now. So there's always just something else, right? There's the viral stuff. Well, what's TikTok doing? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just kind of play off that. And a lot of times, like you said, just a recycled thing. Hey, I did this not long ago, because you're constantly getting new people.
Hmm.
So these people they're coming on right now, they didn't see what I did in 2016. They probably never will, right?
Yeah.
So, you always need to refresh some of your best hitters. So, something that you did last year might be a good idea to refresh it again this year.
Yeah. Now we talked before we started recording, especially before you started this channel, you did I guess in the beginning you did something like big green egg stuff, so
Yep.
basically you got like people got smokers, they've got grills, and they've got griddles. Which one is your favorite to use of like those three types?
Oh, definitely the Blackstone. Yeah. So, I used to cook a lot on the big green egg before I got the griddle. And there's a forum that still am a member of. I don't go there much. It's a big green egg. It's called the Egghead Forum. And there, somebody got a Blackstone and they posted it. And I was like, man, that looks sharp right there. Now this was pre rear grease management system days. This was a front grease Blackstone, right? And man, these guys were, I mean, grilled cheeses, the breakfast and all that. And man, I was lusting hard after this thing. I mean, hard. And I think my wife just got tired of me, talking about it. And she bought me my first one in 2015,
Okay.
August of 2015 for my birthday. She bought it for me. And then I realized just how fast I can get
Yeah.
food on the table
Mm.
and don't have to get charcoal up. A big green egg is, there's not but just so much space on it. It was one, two, three times a night or three times a week. And then the Blackstone is like, man, you can go out there, cut the burners on, and you're up and going, and you got food on the table. We had our son there in 2018, and so had one kid already, and then another one kind of on the way. Just by far the easiest way to get something on
Yeah.
the table, so you can get something else done.
If people are like, I have a grill, why should I get a flat top griddle? Like, what's the difference? How would you
Yeah,
explain?
a grill, of course, you have, it's open flame, semi-open. I know it has like baffles in it or whatever, but you got the whole surface of a griddle. You could cook way more things. Green
Yeah.
beans, eggs. Over easy eggs, scrambled eggs. Breakfast, bacon. You name it. It's way more versatile than a typical grill can ever be, and just put out way more food than you could ever do either. And you don't have to worry about flare ups. You don't have to worry about grease fires. You don't have to worry about, all that. So, just way more versatile.
Yeah. What is either your favorite thing or maybe your favorite type of thing to make on the Blackstone?
I'd say I like tacos. Tacos is probably one of my most favorite things to eat. They're so versatile. You can do fusion, tacos, so you can take other ethnicities, and put it into a taco, and it's just wow, right? And I like the flavors. I like the simplicity sometimes of tacos, and I also like the little bit more bougie things where you can really really layer a lot more flavors onto a taco. So it's a versatile thing. You can go real simple or you can go elaborate. So I can crush a lot of tacos. I love tacos.
Maybe there's not really because they're pretty basic. But is there any hussy secrets to good tacos?
So the good secrets to tacos for me is, especially with your proteins, a lot of people will dice up their proteins first and, cook those onto your griddle. A way to get, good caramelization, that Maillard, what they call Maillard reaction, right? It gets us that sear, that caramel color. I like to, if time is there, so like I said, chicken breast or whatever, I like to put the whole chicken breast onto the griddle, get it nice and colored. It may not be cooked through, then slice it up, put it back onto the griddle, and then and then finish cooking it that way. That's a good way to get a lot of really good flavor into your proteins and your vegetables too. So it's kind of like, when you go to like a Japanese teppanyaki steakhouse, they
Yeah.
put the chicken down first and the meat and whatever else, and then they cut it up, and it just helps the flavor, because you can't, if you cube up your chicken, cube up your beef before, you're not going to get that same color on all those sides, or maybe not even on hardly any of the sides,
Yeah.
because it's you got way more sides there. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's interesting. Now, question. I steak. Like steak. Probably a lot of guys like steak.
Yeah.
What is your how do you make the perfect steak? Now, I've been doing this. I told you before got a black sun myself about 3 years ago. I never cooked ever before this, and now I'm out there like 4 or 5 times a week, because to your point, it's so easy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, even to this day, I'm like, I mean, they're fine, I guess, but I don't know. I feel like they could be better. How do
Yeah.
you make the perfect steak?
Now, this is totally if I got time, way more time, than I ever have, right? So ideally, nice ribeye, right? That's my favorite, and you can do other stuff too, but I won't talk trash about you. Um, I like a nice ribeye, preferably the day before. Give it a little bit of salt, maybe about half a teaspoon per pound, half a teaspoon to a teaspoon per pound. You put that into your refrigerator, uncovered, onto a baking rack with another rack to keep air kind of circulating around it. Okay, this does
So not in a bag or anything, just
not in a
open.
bag, out in the
Okay.
open. Yep. And a few things happen here. The salt brings moisture out, and you're probably saying, "Well, Hussey, this thing's going to be dry whenever I cut it." This is the wrong moisture. You're trying to get water out, and water is not good. Water on steak equals gray. That's going to boil, wherever it's at in the steak, and that's how you get a gray band. Salt is actually the only seasoning that can actually penetrate meat. What happens is it brings the moisture to the top. It's not going to do it all. It's not going.
Yeah.
It's not going to bring all the moisture, but it will bring some, and then it reacts with the salt, and then it kind of sits into the meat. It's not going to go to the middle at all. It don't penetrate that far, but it will penetrate a little bit. Okay, and then it just dries your exterior out. When it dries your exterior out, it allows you to get a better crust on the outside of your steak. Okay, so crust, the caramelization, the Maillard reaction, that gives you, I mean, the Maillard reaction alone kind of, the caramelization kind of gives you an umami, whenever you eat that. And then dryness, you get that nice crust, and it's not going to, not going to be without a crust, in other words,
Yeah.
so it's going to sear, the fat's going to cook out, it's going to release. It's just going to be a nice exterior. If you don't have that time to go overnight, a lot of times you don't. I don't.
Yeah.
Put a little salt, just let it set it out. And that salt, you'll see that the moisture just start kind of rising. You just want to blot it off and then re-season. And then if it's a big steak, I like to do a reverse sear. Reverse sear is great. It's a great way to put a little bit of smoke onto it. You reverse sear is basically you roast it first at a really low temperature, bring it up to roughly 10 degrees before you like it. So if you like a medium rare steak, which is 130 degrees internal, you want to bring it off about 115 to 120 degrees, preferably 115. It might rise a little bit whenever you take it off. Okay. So, but on the sear, whenever you're cooking it on the Blackstone, you want to flip the thing a lot. And a lot of people is going to get mad at that, but
Yeah.
so, stick with me here. If you put, if you got a hot griddle, you want to make sure this thing's at, 450 at least, right? That's going to get a nice, I mean, you can, 425 be good, but 450, ripping hot. You put your steak on there, and if you leave it for, I don't know, 5 minutes, they say, oh, you flip it twice and you're good. that heat is on the bottom. Here's the bottom of your griddle. Here's your steak. That heat just keeps heating that steak, heating that steak, heating that steak, and it just keeps going into your steak, right? So if you do that on the other side, it's going to do the exact same thing. So then you're left with red just in the middle, and that's it. If you keep flipping it, you're heating it just in a kind of a systematic, in a more consistent manner. So this, I'm talking 30 seconds, 30, 45 seconds, minute max. Flip it. And then you flip it again. And then you flip it again. Then when you cut it, it's going to be more medium rare from top to bottom than just the center. You know what I'm saying? And so there's no, a lot of people, the whole theory behind, if you flip it, you're watching it, you're not doing whatever that old adage is. But that's simply not the case. And then, grill marks, to heck with grill marks. I want crust, left to right, top to bottom, because that's just flavor, Grill marks are so overrated. Yeah. So, and if you have a press, I got these little chef presses that I use a lot. I don't know if you've ever seen them. And that's a pretty cool way you put them onto your steaks or grilled cheeses, and that way it creates just a little bit of pressure for you to get onto your steak, and that helps contact patch. Mm-hmm. And you just keep flipping it, get a nice thermometer, nice instant read thermometer, and just keep, just kind of probing it till whenever that doneness that you're looking for. And then that's a perfect steak. Finish it with some butter, thyme, rosemary, garlic, at the end, right where that steak had been cooking at. It's got that nice fond. The fond's that stuff that's kind of stuck to the griddle, kind of brings that up. And man, that's an awesome thing right there.
So you're saying you put that stuff on where the steak was cooked, and then you just
either right before it's done. That way you can bathe it in it if you want, and then you take your steak off, and then you take your spatula, just kind of come up under it, put it right onto your cutting board. There's some other cool things. You make like a board sauce. You can take butter, thyme, that kind of thing, and season your cutting board. Then put your steak on that, and you can bathe it. I mean, there's several compound butters that you can make as well. So that's kind of the technique, though. Flipping often, and just keep building that crust on both sides, and then whenever you cut it, you have that nice. For me, I like medium rare, and it's top to bottom. Red, basically, with a little bit of band maybe at the top or bottom. So.
Now, I know people say, I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Maybe it's preference. But on the griddle, do you have a type of oil you like to use the most, or does it depend on what you're cooking?
I do. I like avocado oil, and I've been using a lot of just generic cooking. I use avocado and olive oil blend, and the good thing is you get the olive oil taste, and you get the high heat of avocado oil. Avocado oil is good for, I think, maybe right at 500 degrees before you smoke it. Olive oil is way lower, maybe 375 or so.
And can you explain why that matters? Because I didn't realize this for a long time.
Yeah. So there's smoke points of oil that you use, and they all have different. I got a nice little chart on my website. It's actually a free little chart to help you. Nice. So like butter, for example, about 325 upwards 350. That's it for the butter. And once you smoke it, it's going to turn black. It's going to taste kind of bitter because you smoked it. And the reason why butter has a low smoke point is because it's got milk solids in it. And milk, of course, is not very high heat tolerant anyway. So you can make clarified butter from butter. Basically, you're taking the milk solids and the whey protein out, and then you're left with clarified butter, which is very high heat tolerant, upwards of around 475 degrees. So you can do that. That's my other really favorite thing is clarified butter. It's got a buttery taste, but you don't have to worry about smoking it, So same thing. Olive oil has a really low smoke point. If you put that down onto a 450 degree griddle top, it just immediately starts smoking, and it'll turn brown, kind of turn bitter as well. And I'm sure folks have gotten some taste like from fried foods, like some fried fries or something like that. Like their oil is just like something's just off. It tastes bitter. It tastes kind of it leaves an aftertaste in your mouth. That's either they're using old oil plus they may have cut it up a little bit and they kind of smoked it. After you use oil so many times, it's like deep frying. It kind of loses its compounds, kind of like the oil in your car, and it just kind of gives you a weird mouthfeel and a bitterness.
So a question then about the butter then, because obviously the smoke point is pretty low. If you're making something, steak or whatever, and the griddle is past the butter smoke point, how then do you incorporate butter into what you're making?
Well, so I like to fix like eggs, butter with my I like to cook my eggs and butter, and basically I just try to keep it beneath that. Maybe I don't understand the question, but yeah,
So
you
like,
just want to keep your griddle under that.
well, let's like, you make steak. Steak's going to be 450, you said. And then you add like butter, garlic, whatever.
Yep.
Is it because there's already oil, then you can put the butter on it, and that's fine?
I will cut my griddle down a little bit. You want to try to, you don't want to keep it just wide open. Number one, your steak is cooked, right? So you don't need that high heat anymore. So it's a good idea to, just basically shut it down, and then that way you don't smoke it.
Okay. Now this might be kind of a general question here, but either cooking in general or maybe flat top Blackstone specific, what are a couple maybe tips or tricks you've learned over the years to someone who's starting out that you'd want them to know?
Using regulating temperature. All right, that's one thing a lot, because I do see a lot of people ask, especially eggs. Sounds so simple. Like, why can't you cook eggs? And you just there's a technique to it.
Yeah.
And keeping that griddle temperature low. That's the main thing. And people don't know that you can cut your burners off, because a lot of people say, well, I'm on low and this thing's at 450 degrees. Well, if you leave a heat source on up under this piece of metal, it's just going to keep getting hotter. And there's a lot of factors. There's ambient temperatures, there's humidity, there's wind, So, if you don't quite understand how temperatures look like on your griddle, you getting an infrared thermometer helps tremendously. So, knowing, 300 to 325 degrees to cook eggs, and they're not going to be black, they're going to be nice and beautiful, is perfect. So, getting, used to your temperatures, knowing what your smoke points are, knowing your griddle. So knowing where your cool spots are, knowing you can have zones, you can have one zone off, you can have this zone on, and getting used to that is probably the utmost tip that I could say, is getting used to your griddle, knowing your zones, knowing your cool zones. And then that way you're not, you're not cooking stuff to be a crisp or, anything like that.
Yeah.
So
now when it comes to, getting a griddle. So I think I've sold probably 6 or 7 griddles personally, not personally, but people come over to the house, whatever, they buy one. Yeah. My biggest thing, I personally have a Blackstone, so I recommend it. You can tell me if this is what you advise when people ask you, they say, Hussey, what should I buy? I always just say, hey, at the end of the day, you need to get like a 4-burner 36-inch.
Yep.
Because you will only just regret it. You won't always use it, but you will sometimes wish. And some people get smaller one. I'm like, that was a bad decision. I got a friend a couple months ago, and he was like, what about this price? Because there was a cheaper one for 28 inches, and I was like, I wouldn't do 20. Because he's like a family of 6 or 4 or 5, something like that. He got the 28-inch, and I'm like, you're going to regret that. If someone's like, hey, I'm interested in getting a griddle, even Blackstone, they have a bunch of different ones. What do you recommend for people?
I always tell people I recommend whatever you can afford. That's both space and budget.
Yeah.
Space meaning, do you have room for a 36-inch griddle with 2 side shelves? Some people don't.
Right.
But I'm exactly with you. I've had, I don't know how many people get a 28 and they just have a little bit of remorse for not having that extra space. And that extra space is needed. It may not be cooking, But you
Right.
can throw your fried rice, you can push it over there. Like, I'll see you in a minute, sucker. I got some other stuff to take care of, you know? And
Yeah.
it's just idling over there. It's just staying warm. Otherwise, you got to take it out into a
Mm.
pan, put it somewhere else. If you put it over on the side, it might get knocked off, you know. And that's the cool thing about it's that zone cooking, and you don't have to have that burner on if you don't want it. If you cut it off, stuff is still going to stay warm because of just the way thermodynamics works, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, I would prefer a 36 over any. But if you don't have the space, just get what you can afford as far as space wise. And then Blackstone has tons of models. The standard Walmart version, I can't remember the model number off the top of my head, but I mean, they're still, two, like sometimes 259 to 279 every day.
Yeah.
And I mean, I call that the OG model. That looks just like the OG I got back in 2015, except for it's a rear grease instead of a front grease. But it still has a 36-inch plate, still got 4 burners up under it, and so there's a few more bells and whistles. But yeah, I totally agree. I recommend a 36 if you can. There are other models. There's Pro Series models. There's Culinary for Lowe's, and those do start getting a little pricey because they got more bells and whistles to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, for the flat top, meat and vegetables, even rice, people might understand. Yeah, I can make that on there. When it comes to unconventional things, like anything unconventional that you made that you made sometimes that you enjoy that people might not realize, you can make this on a griddle.
Yeah, there's tons. Sometimes desserts, people think, oh man, I didn't think about that. You take some butter, a little bit of butter, angel food cake, you toast that off, and then you take some peaches, and a little bit of butter, brown sugar, cinnamon, honey, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I mean, you can make those. That's a great dessert. I made a dessert for some folks over at Lowe's not long ago, and people were absolutely just loving those things. They spoke very highly of them. And it was a pineapple. I took a ring of pineapple, just a can of pineapple rings, and I had a Krispy Kreme donut. Cut them in half. Butter down, cut side down onto the griddle, get that toasty, and then I did the same thing with the pineapple with brown sugar and cinnamon, and basically it made a sandwich. I made a donut sandwich with pineapple and with brown sugar and honey, and then you can even put some ice cream on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, desserts, crepes. A lot of people sleep on crepes. Crepes are great. You can do savory or you can do sweet. I did a reverse seared New York strip one time. I didn't feel like firing up the big green egg, so I thought, hey, let's try to do this. So I put a rack on there and put a cover on top of that, and this kind of reverse seared did turn out okay. Just didn't get any smoke. If you want some smoke, I guess you can light. You could put a little bit of pellets in there if you want, or a smoke tube, that kind of thing. I've never done it before, but I see folks doing like chocolate chip cookies on there. So yeah, I mean, you could still do the unconventional things. I know a guy that did a brisket on one, the whole Packer brisket on a griddle. Can't remember how long it took him, but it took a while. But so yeah,
that's great. Again, go ahead.
Now, I was just gonna say, when you start doing briskets and ribs and stuff like that, just sometimes just come on, just put it in the smoker or your oven,
Yeah. Well, for those that want different ideas, make sure to check out Hungry Hussey on YouTube. I'm curious, you buy a lot of groceries, more than the average person, given how much you cook.
Yeah.
Is there any brands or products that you have found that you like better to use more than others?
I am a stickler. I like to buy. My mom was like this. My wife hates it because I think my wife's a little bit more frugal than I am. And my mom was always like name brand, right? You got to have, Duke's mayonnaise, obviously, for me. Okay. I love the North Carolina brands. Love Cheerwine. Love Nisi's sausage, which is out of Greensboro. Love Carolina Packers. There's some good friends of mine, Curtis Packing. So Carolina Packers is bright leaf hot dogs, which is a kind of an Eastern North Carolina thing. And I love their stuff. I love their smoked sausages. I love, everything they got. And then Nieces is sausages out of Greensboro, and that's what I grew up with. So any kind of sausage, a lot of times I'll buy like a Nieces sausage or a Bass Farm, or use the Carolina Packers brand or whatever. Um, so yeah, that's I love my Curtis bacon. Just a good standard bacon. I love my bologna from them too. So I try to stay local on a lot of things for meats and things like that. I got a little place up the road I like to get my meats. They're a butcher up the street here. So Colonial Meats is their name, and so sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But yeah, the Dukes. I always say state law. Cheerwine, and then Carolina Packers, Bright Leaf, Curtis brand, that kind of thing.
Now, when it comes to seasoning, tell us about your seasoning, and then also just seasonings that you like to use that people, there's so many of them. Sometimes it honestly kind of feels overwhelming. Like, what do I use? So, what do you like?
Yeah. So other than salt, kosher salt, I'm a Morton kosher salt guy. You either Morton or your Diamond Crystal. I'm a Morton guy. Fresh cracked pepper, get you a nice pepper grinder, garlic powder, onion powder. And you'll see a lot of times in my videos, I always use, and this is, a lot of people's like, what is it? What do you do? So like green beans, for example, somebody's like, dude, your canned green beans are they're like crack, man. Like, what do you do to them? Like, well, number one, there's a little bit of bacon in it, right? Or bacon grease. I use Bacon Up a lot of times. That's a product you can buy. It's already refined bacon grease.
Can I ask you real quick, what's the difference between Bacon Up and just using your own bacon grease? That's just more convenient, or
Bacon Up is already refined. So they strain it. It's really it's really clean. So whenever you get your own bacon, you can by far go ahead, use your bacon grease. But whenever you use your bacon grease, there's going to be some leftover brown tidbits in there. You may have smoked it a little bit. Bacon grease also has a smoke point. So there's just other things that's in your bacon grease that you're getting from your bacon. But by all means, use it too. Save that. It's Lord, that's the good stuff, man.
I just, again, slow adapter. Make a 2 packs of bacon like every 2 weeks or so, and we just heat it up in the morning. I have 7 to 8, and I was like, I need to start saving this bacon grease. So I just finally started doing it. But I see a lot of guys use Bacon Up, and I was just curious.
Yeah, it helps so that you don't have to catch everything. If you're not, maybe some people don't cook a lot of bacon.
Yeah.
I like to vegetables, that kind of thing. Rub baked potatoes with some bacon grease, and then salt it, and then cook them. Oh man, that's great. Makes a great exterior. So it's just a clean. Whenever you use it, there's no little bits of anything. Right. There's no brown bits. It's just pure bacon, refined bacon grease.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. So sorry about cutting you off.
No.
Seasoning.
No.
Seasoning.
Yep.
What other seasonings?
I use Knorr beef powder, chicken powder, and there's a brown top, there's a green top, and then there's a red top. Red top is tomato and chicken bouillon powdered. The green is chicken bouillon, and the brown is beef. And it's like it's a concentrated beef flavor. It's got MSG in it too. That's kind of a itchy, tough subject. But a lot of people say, why does this taste better than mine? And I'm like, well, it's probably the MSG that's in it and this extra beefy flavor or chicken flavor. Okay. So I use that stuff almost exclusively. I do have my own seasonings, and my seasonings have that stuff in it. And I have 2 seasonings right now. I got some ideas that I want to expand that, but time is a thief. But first one is kind of like my flagship, but they're both my recipes. The first one is Hussey's Heifer Dust, and I developed that because there was not any kind of smash burger seasoning or anything. It was just, you had Montreal steak seasoning, and that was
Yeah.
kind of a little rough, coarse for me. I don't really care for it much, the coarseness that is. There wasn't a whole lot out there, and I thought maybe that's what I should try to target. And I had this recipe. I've posted my recipe. There's a few other things in heifer dust now, but the basis of my recipe has been posted on my videos. I don't know how many times. Probably starting out, 2016, and so I whenever I found somebody that would partner with me, I had to send my recipe, sign an NDA, um, and they send you a bulk pack to say, to try it. You got to try it and make sure it's to your satisfaction, and if you need to make a revision. Well, I sent it out to some taste testers, and next thing you know, they were like, "Dude, bro, this is spot on, man." But I'm eating this on my French fries. I'm eating this on my eggs. I'm eating this on, what, it's just like, it's almost like a lot of people use it for their seasonal. And I marketed it, said heifer dust, kind of for beef, right? And because it's got a little bit of beef flavor in it, but I use it for chicken. I use it for pork. But mainly it was the marketing thing. Hussey's heifer dust. My name's kind of unconventional. Some people, take it for something else. And so I thought Hussey's and heifer. I really thought that would be a great idea right there. To try to couple those two things together.
Yeah, that's great.
Second one is a Fiesta blend, and again, I posted this recipe. A buddy of mine, he was like, "Dog," he was like, this is some of the best seasonings, for Mexican. It's not hot; it's just warm. Sorry if you're hearing that. Somebody's blowing leaves right beside of me here.
It's just like when you film in your videos.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, the guy shows up to mow the yard, so that's great. And it's a Fiesta. It's called Fiesta Dust, which is actually Rev 2, because at first I said Fiesta Blend, and I didn't quite. I don't know why it didn't dawn on me. I'm like, why don't you call it Dust, you dummy? so it's like, and I have other graphics already ready for some other items too, with the Dust kind of naming convention. And it's a great seasoning for Mexican. If you want to do your carne asada, you want to do some fajitas, you want to do just what I call white people tacos, it's just basically ground beef and a packet of, the seasoning. You can use the Hussey's Fiesta Dust for that. People love it on their avocados, that kind of thing. My mother-in-law, she likes to make her chili out of it. So
Nice.
Bless her. But so that's my two for right now. Starting to run out of room because I order this. It comes to me in a pallet. I'm ordering like 150 cases at a time to keep up with like online sales, and then I self-distribute to some places around the house here too.
Nice. And well, Matthew, I'm really grateful for your time. Learned a lot about griddling, cooking, behind the scenes. Kind of last maybe practical griddle question I have here. What accessories do you recommend that makes cooking easier and or more fun on the flat top? I know there's lots of options, but what are a few you'd recommend? I'm
a pretty simple guy. I hate having a lot of accessories. And I'm I'm a no frills person. I like a nice spatula, somebody's like, well, obviously spatula, but there's different spatulas. Some people like a nice stiff spatula. Some people like one that's got a little bit of a play in it, a little bit flimsy. I like a flimsy because I feel like I can maneuver the thing a little bit better. So, so number one is finding some good spatulas that fit good in your hand. You know what I'm saying? And so that's number one. A nice dome. I like the big dome. You get them from Walmart. It'll actually fit like not lengthwise, but depth-wise, and you can fit a lot of stuff under that dome. So the large dome, that's the other one. Nice set of knives and cutting board, and then trays to take stuff out and in. So both ways, bring stuff out to the griddle, and then to bring stuff out from the griddle.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Matthew, again, thanks so much for the time. If people are like, hey, I want to see some of the stuff he makes, get connect with him, maybe get some of his dustings, where can they find you online?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's called thehungryhussey.com. That's where you can. I have all my videos there. You can find the full recipes there. Also sell my seasonings there, shirts, that kind of thing. Seasonings, I actually pack here at my house. Me, my wife, or my daughter, sometimes my son might pack it. I like to write a nice little note. Tell you thank you for your order, thank you for your support, and a little candy from Redbird Candy out of Lexington, North Carolina. Nice. So it's like a little treat. Just thank you for your support and order. And then over on YouTube, that's where I generally like to stay, but I do have The Hungry Hussey as well there, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well under The Hungry Hussey.
Well, like you said, it's a pretty unique name. So The Hungry Hussey, where anyone finds themselves online, that's where they can check out some of your videos. So
yes, sir.
Well, Matthew, thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Dylan.